I just feel like we are all these ancient priestesses who just made like soul agreements to wake each other up at certain times during our lifetime. And, you're receiving from me right now. In the future, I may receive from you. It's like it's like a divine weaving and an interdependence rather than this hierarchical structure because you get to a frequency where you just realize there's divinity in everyone and everyone's just remembering. And you hit this certain frequency of like, how can I just help this person remember their love? Like, what does this moment need to just bring more love?
Welcome to Rooted and Divine with me, Katelyn Paine, a podcast for women ready to shed old identities, heal, and align with their soul. Each week, we'll explore spiritual growth, healing, and personal stories that empower you to embody your truth. Rooted in humanity and fully alive as a divine soul. Welcome, Dani Frederick, to the Rooted and Divine podcast. I could almost get teary about having you on. I'm so happy that you're here and so excited to share like your magic and your frequency with the world and the community because we just need more of it. So
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a blessing to be here in your field and in this beautiful creation that I just know is going to serve as a frequency beacon for so many people to be connected more deeply to their hearts and to their divine truth and their knowing. So the honor's all mine.
yeah, thank you. I just want to start out by saying a few things about Dani. I just started working with Dani in April, so it's just so fun that we're here. And I'm also currently doing her Holy Fire program, and it's been absolutely life-changing. And before we started recording, I was just telling Dani, I'm like, the secret to life is really like just the frequency. And that's really been what Dani has taught me, is just like having a clear and pristine frequency. I really want to talk to you today about the power of the voice because I think that that's something that people are still having a hard time connecting to, of like, why does that matter? And I think that they think the voice is just like, oh, I'm speaking boundaries, or I'm using it to speak, you know, like I'm using it to like just set a boundary or like say how I feel. And those things are definitely an important part of the voice. I'm like, the voice is so much deeper. So I can't wait to get into that with you. But first, let's just start over. Let's tell everyone who you are. Like, let's give it, like, tell me what I want to actually know. I've listened to all the podcasts you've been on, but like, tell me a little bit about you, like where you came from, how you got to where you are.
Well, like I said, such a pleasure to be here. And as you shared, we are connected because you are in my Holy Fire program. You've been in a different private mentorship with me, and we're quickly becoming, colleagues, sisters, clients, mentors, mentees. It's this nuanced new relationship, I think, that is happening in the 5D. And so what I really help people do is come into their full, I want to say soul fullness of activating their light body, anchoring their truth, and actually walking forward as that. Another way to say that is, living the most fulfilling life and creating a reality that's an extension of your soul. And as you know, I do that through a lot of frequency work and a lot of just spiritual acumen of actually coming into an understanding of what spiritual mastery in an embodied way really means, so that we can be those way showers, those frequency holders for ourselves, for our family, for our community, for those who want a more public platform, who are drawn to that. We can do that as well, but doing it in a way that is not of the old earth where success comes with sacrifice, but that with success and fulfillment in this more 5D nature comes from authentic expression and really owning who we are and being able to steward that with grace in practical ways, which does mean, you could look at like there's some sacrifice because as our frequency increases, that which is not increasing with us will fall away. So especially if people are at the beginning of their spiritual journey, there will be a shift in relationships and friendships, perhaps in jobs, just anything that's not supporting their highest becoming is going to go away. But it's really how can we practically apply our grace and our emanation to be able to do some of those human things, have courageous conversations, reach out to people to be on our creations like a podcast and have the courage to do that, to be able to sit with ourselves and hold emotions and triggers while we continue to say yes and walk forward anyways without bypassing those emotions and making sure that we're tending to ourselves. So I'm really here to help both women and men, but specifically my long-term programs right now are all designed for women to become who they are in truth and walk forwards as stewards of that truth, authenticity, frequency here in this world. And I do that with a lot of the voice, spiritual acumen, spiritual mastery, spiritual support, how to connect with your intuition, how to connect with your guides, and how to express yourself in a way that feels enlivening.
And what did that process look like for you? Like, did you grow up as a spiritual human? Did you grow up religious? Like, how did you come into your gifts? Like, the woman who's like, okay, like that all sounds beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, how do I even get there? What is she saying by light body and our souls? Like, how did it all begin?
No, I did not grow up religious. I have relatives that are quite religious in different religions that really actually don't align with each other. So I almost got like a front seat in some ways, maybe like a second row seat to religion, but my parents were not religious. They didn't raise us religious. My dad tried one time. He tried to take us to church, but we were kids and we were like, we're bored. Why do we have to go? And then we never went again, so it didn't work. So yeah, I didn't grow up religious. My story of my awakening, we're always on our awakening and becoming path, but I'll say when I was consciously aware is I really went from this pendulum swing of just like so ragged, so tired, so beat up by the world, so afraid, hoarding money because I was like, I can only depend on me. I was like in my toxic masculine, wore black every day. Like, there's nothing wrong with black. I still wear black, but it's like I had zero color in my closet. It was literally like black and gray. And that was really saying something about like the amount my soul was actually in my life. But I didn't know any other way because it was like, I followed the prescription of, you go to college, you get the job, you get the partner, you do all of these things. And everyone would say to me that you make money at work so that you can enjoy life outside of work. And that never made sense to me. So I was constantly searching of like, what career will fulfill me? Why aren't I fulfilled? Why aren't I fulfilled? So a lot of my spiritual awakening actually centered around a desire for service that was wrapped in just this confusion of this world's really weird. Why are we working so much and hate our lives? Like, this is not cool. This is not cool, right? But now that I know who I am and where I'm from, and like when I say where I'm from, I'm like from a soul perspective. I'm like, oh no, this world is actually ass backwards and crazy. Sorry, I don't know if we're allowed to swear on your podcast. You
Yeah,
can let
you
me
can
know.
swear.
But, back when I was first awakening, I thought there was something wrong with me, because it's like, well, why am I thinking so differently? Why can't I find happiness? What's wrong with me? Why can't I, just go to work and do what everyone says? And so, yeah, I went through a few deep, dark nights of the soul of just trying to shift my life from a career perspective. And what was happening now that hindsight is 2020 as I look back is I was basically because I was like almost fearless, even though I was full of fear, but I would still act in like switching my jobs and I would do well. I worked out of college at a place that hires less than 1% of applicants in software. I also got on one of the top teams in Manhattan real estate. Like, I would be able to do good, but what I was doing is I was saying, I was just molding myself. Like, if you need to be me, need me to be a square peg, I'll be a square peg. If you need to be me to be a round peg, I'll be a round peg. And I was just so numb because I just cut myself off and just thought I need to survive. So as I was kind of shifting through these different career paths, having some mild success, it was always the same. And what I realized is, and I wouldn't have used these words back then, but again, hindsight 2020, I wasn't changing my frequency. I didn't choose who I was. So even though I was shifting careers, it's like I was still staying at the same level. I kind of stayed around the same salary level. I had the same kind of dynamics with bosses and teams. And so it was basically just the same thing in different wrapping paper. Why
Mm.
is that? Because I did not change myself. I was only changing my outer world. So, through another dark night of the soul, spirit woke me up and I started doing personal development, kind of like Tony Robbins-esque things. And that was a really foreign department to me. It was like they were speaking Italian to my mind, but to my heart, it was like, go on this path, like keep working on yourself. And as you work on yourself, as you know, your frequency shifts and upgrades, and then the universe, your reality responds to your frequency. So that's when I started to see real change in my life. And then as I started to see real change in my life, first, because where I was at was really in survival, right? So the first kind of real change was more of like emotional safety that I created within, really recognizing all the different parts of me, nurturing my inner child, forgiving myself, forgiving the world. And then really from there, after hitting like a certain point in my healing, of course, healing kind of goes on forever, but then it was like my purpose, that yearning to share the work kind of started coming online, but I knew I wasn't quite ready. And then I started having more gifts open up. And then came the point where spirit was like, no, you're ready, go for it. And I was like, I don't want to. It's like for 5 years, I was like, why don't I have my own business? Why don't I do this? Like, I can do this. But then it's like when life asked me to step up to the plate, I was like, no, give me a consulting gig. Give me another job. I promise I'll start it on the side. And they're like, no, you're not going to move. We've seen you. You won't move until you're backed into a corner. So this is what's
Yeah.
happening. So that is really kind of the trajectory of I was just so stuck in fear, in the kind of like death matrix that exists in our world today. I did work on myself, started really with my own personal healing and emotional alchemy. That then, more in the personal development vein, that then turned into the priestess vein, where it was just like hard left turn, going full balls to the walls, spirituality, consuming every spiritual book. I feel like I re-put myself through like college, just in a spiritual. I literally made my own like monastery, and I didn't talk to anyone for like 3 years. And I just studied spirituality and I studied myself. And
Uh,
then I kind of emerged, and life was like, you're ready. And now I'm offering what you've experienced. So yeah, that's really where I was at.
I can relate so much. I really feel like that is such the arc of so many women's journey. It just seems like the first place to get into is the mind, the Tony Robbins thing of like, okay, like I can be better. But that the monastery, the priestess era, I feel like is one that I'm walking out of, where the last few years has been like just the deep cocoon of, my whole life has always been, I've just always known that I'm here to serve women, and it's the same thing where I'm like, okay, I know that this is coming, but it's always been spirits like, you're not ready yet. It's not time. You still need to cultivate and really work through and like till the ground of your inner soul. Because it's so easy to just want to be like, I don't want to till any ground. I just want to get out there and I just want to bless the lives of women. But really, there's so many women who are out there, trying to bless the lives of other women who haven't tilled the ground, like the inner parts of your soul. It has to be touched with your own two hands, and it has to be taken care of for a certain amount of time. That time is very specific to every single person. You know what I mean? That length or whatever. But I do feel like it is an initiation where it's like, no, my hands have to be in my own ground. I have to build my own temple, my own foundation. And I can't because I think the Tony Robbins, the mindset work, it can give us kind of a false sense of like, okay, well, now I'm healed and now I have the inner child has been spoken to, and I will go out and I will help everyone access their inner child. And I think that that's what I love so much about your program and what you're creating is it the moment that we even spoke, like I didn't even know what I was called, what I had scheduled a consultation for. Like we had just scheduled a discovery call. And I was like, I don't even know what I'm scheduling this for. But that's how spirit moves through me personally is like something gets on my radar and it's all I can see. And spirit's like, this is who you are going to be on a call with. And we got on the call and I was like, I don't even really know what I'm here for. What do you offer? What do you even offer? Danny, I just felt like it was like this immediate connection of like, I know her. She's my sister and she has something for me, this deep, temple wisdom that I had been searching for, that I'm like, who has this? Because it can feel super lonely sometimes, because you're like, am I that, when you said back there, am I crazy? Or am I broken because I don't think like the whole world is thinking, or that I'm not seeing things through the lens that the world is subscribing to? And it really is about this deep embodiment that I can relate to that. So at what point in your journey did like the whole, like, did the voice come on? Because that's really, for reference for everyone listening, I had a friend who was like, Katelyn, do you know light language? And light language had been on the outer edges of my consciousness. Like, she said it, and then all of a sudden it was like a magnet. Like all I could think about was light language the moment she's like, do you know anything about light language? And I was like, "No." And then it just lit a fire in my heart. And I was like, "I don't know what this is, but it's me and I have to do it and I don't know where to go and I don't know who." I was asking this friend, I'm like, what do you want to tell me about light language? Tell me." Tell me. And she's like, "I don't know. I was asking you." And I was just, every part of my being, it was this like remembrance the moment she was like, "Do you know anything about light language?" And it's so funny because that same friend, like, she has nothing to do with light language in this moment. You know what I mean? Like, it was literally like spirit working through her to me. And then that's how it brought me to you, as I got onto Facebook. I was like, am I a part of any priestess page? And I'm like asking someone, I'm like, who knows a vocal priestess? I don't know what I'm asking for. Someone's helping me. Something needs to be activated in my voice. And that's what brought me to Dani, is because I knew that there was a power deep within my heart and in my throat that needed to be released. And I just didn't know it until the friend told me, do you know light language? So like, how did that come online for you? And then we can kind of weave our stories together as I speak about my experience with you.
I just love how you articulate things. There's so many key codes and just this is one of the key codes of New Earth, which is when women share their stories, we are just mirrors and we light one each other up, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like I love that you're getting notifications on the key points. I feel like spirit's like, "Bing, pay attention." No, it's so perfect. It's so synchronistic. It really is.
It's like
This
my
is
husband's computer and it's his phone connected to the computer. And
it's
like
like
the
we can't.
computer's not up and running yet. So I'm like, so sorry. I'm like, are these notifications on the podcast?
No,
I
they
guess.
are, and we love them. They are so welcome here. We are so here for it. Because this is one other thing I wanna highlight. I just feel like, I like, as you know, I like to talk in like 5D versus 3D, and that's just verbiage. It's not like, "This is what 5D is, this is 3D." So just for those listening, I'm thinking about like 3D as like the matrix, 5D is like your sovereign expressed self and the reality of that. So there's a couple things I wanna pick out before I go, and then I'll go into my story. But, it's you talked about remembrance, and I think one of the 3D things is when we go to someone, it's just teaching, learning, teaching, learning. And you kind of hit on that where it's like we learn enough where we're like, oh, we're ready to like go teach out there. But what we're actually going to is embodiment, because then when you embody, people coming to you, it's like, yeah, they're learning things. Yeah, there's an element of teaching, but it's mostly that we're frequency holders excavating remembrance in who's sitting in front of us, right? So I don't even like really resonate with the term teacher, although people call me a teacher and I am a spiritual teacher. But I just feel like we are all these ancient priestesses who just made like soul agreements to wake each other up at certain times during our lifetime. And, you're receiving from me right now. In the future, I may receive from you. It's like it's really this, it's like a divine weaving and an interdependence rather than this hierarchical structure where because you get to a frequency where you just realize there's divinity in everyone and everyone's just remembering. And you hit this certain frequency of like, how can I just help this person remember their love? Like, what does this moment need to just bring more love? And it just
Mhm.
becomes this beautiful game in that way. So, anyways, back to the voice. So, yeah, I still remember that when you came on and you're like, look, I don't even know why I'm here. Like, I've typed in vocal priestess on Facebook, and then you go, I don't even know what a vocal priestess is. You're like, spirit just told me to type that in. But that's the thing, right? It's like, whoa, when I hear that from someone who's not afraid to follow the whisperings of their heart, even when it doesn't make sense to their mind. I'm like, this is a master soul remembering itself in human form. Like, that's what's happening. And I just need to hold the frequency and like walk this sister back to her remembrance so that she can be fully online. And so for me with the voice, how I became to be bestowed the vocal priestess title. I've like never used that for myself before, but people always say it. I'm like, I guess I am that. And so let's see. During my monastery days, which was not, again, it was not an official monastery. I had found like a little bungalow 2 blocks off of the ocean in La Jolla. And just talking about intuition, it was on Craigslist. I was looking at Craigslist for like 6 weeks and I was like, I just know this is where I'm going to go. And I saw it on Craigslist and I was like, oh, this looks horrible, but screw it. It's been 6 weeks. Like, I just got to get there. It's month to month, so I can get there and then I can find my permanent place. But turns out the person who listing it just takes terrible pictures because I get there and it's 2 blocks off the beach. It's absolutely perfect. And I remember saying to my mom, who helped me move in, and I said, the only thing that would make this better is a lemon tree so I could walk out and get fresh lemons in the morning. I kid you not, the next morning, lemons on my doorstep with a note from the landlord saying, oh, one of our neighbors has a lemon tree. I'll bring you lemons regularly, right? It's like, so I just wanted to anchor that in with this. When you follow these nudges beyond the mind, that is the path of the spiritual master. That is the path of intuition that leads you beyond reasoning. It points the direction. It doesn't give you the strategy. So you just have to like take these leaps of faith. So anyways, I'm in my little bungalow with my fresh lemon water every morning. And, when I just started getting these chants, like if I was working on something, like cultivating something, Spirit would just drop a chant, like an English word chant into my mind. And it's not like I would ask for the chant. The words wouldn't come by one. It's almost like if it was like a flower, the whole flower was dropped into me and it would just unfold. And I just had this chant. So I would always chant, and chanting is such a powerful, powerful, powerful modality for bringing all of yourself back home to yourself, rewiring the neural pathways, focusing intention, uplifting frequency. I mean, the benefits go just beyond, 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 beyond. So that was that. And then, really I was still in my phase of, okay, I feel this coming, but I'm not ready yet, that you had spoken to. And so I was holding things here and there, like chanting circles and things like that, beginning to share my medicine. And I knew I wasn't ready to be like full blown, this is going to be my main income type thing. So then later, a couple years later, I had light language start coming online during my morning practice when I would be in prayer. And I had heard of light language before. Just one time, a couple years prior, I was in Kauai and the beautiful earth angel had mentioned light language to me because I think she could see in my field. Like, she was really saying things now that I'm realizing where like before I was like, I don't know really what she's talking about. I'm like, that maybe feels resonant. I don't know. But like, she was sweet and it was a great time. And I'm so like, I really bless her and I'm so grateful for her as a teacher on my path. And so I wasn't drawn to it. I wasn't turned off. It was very neutral. I just thought, okay, learned that that's something in the spiritual world. Great. And went on with my life. Well, it started coming on in my personal practice. And I thought, wonderful, I'll use this for myself. It feels really good. It feels familiar. It feels powerful. In fact, it felt so familiar and powerful that I was surprised that when it was mentioned to me a couple years before that I didn't have just like major lights flashing in my life of like, bing, 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 follow that thread, And so started doing that. And then it came time, my guides were telling me, and not only through my direct connection, but through my mentors when they would channel my guides of like, all right, it's time to go public with light language. And I was like, hell to the no, not a chance. Like, I already live as a priestess. Like, I already have like had to explain my lifestyle to so many people. Like, I'm already weird enough. Like, I don't need to be more weird. Like, I'm happy with the amount of weirdness that I have accomplished in my life. We don't need to add any more, But so I started to resist that. And there was more tied into it with light language, but also just starting my own business where, Spirit was like, it's time. And I was like, I don't want to come out of the closet with light language. I'm not trying to start my business. Give me another job. I am not here for this. And so of course, so I got quite sick. Part of that was some physical irritants in the field, but also from a spiritual standpoint, it was that I was just overwhelmed. Like I was short of breath and having to be bedridden, and it's because I like couldn't breathe because I was so afraid of what was being asked of me. And so many women can relate to that because we have these lifetimes of, the witch wound and these times where we did speak up out of love, of being medicine women, of wanting to, being midwives, welcoming new life into the community. And it's like everything we did was for the good of the community. And then, we incarnated in these times where the powers that be, it's not helpful to have a spiritual woman leading the community who empowers people to be healthy, be whole, be confident, be courageous. There we go. Thank you, spirit. And, that doesn't work. You can't control people who feel sovereign and empowered and healthy
Yeah.
and free.
Yeah.
So then, of course, there were systems put in place where we were called witch, where we were ostracized, where we were burned, all of these things. And so now our souls incarnated in this lifetime. And it's like, yes, bring all that wisdom and magic, even though the previous like 100 lifetimes, maybe it didn't work out so great for you. You got to walk through these fear gateways. So that's really what I faced. And so then I was like, fine, okay. Here I go. I'm going to do this, spirit. Like I have no other option. Like I have to be healthy. So I moved to LA. I was like, I'm starting my business. Here we go. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And luckily, it's worked out fantastically. But the first offering I did was a free offering online. And I remember saying to myself, all right, we're going to do light language. And we're going to do it gracefully and with compassion. We're going to do it in a way that can be inviting to people so it's not scary. And if anyone doesn't align with it, like they can just hop off the call and it's all good. But this is my love letter to the universe, putting my stake in the ground of like, okay, I hear you and I am moving forward. And it's funny because when we do that, we will get little tests. And 3 days before the first day of my summit, I got a text from a very religious person in my life whom I love and adore, and I do not hold this against her whatsoever. But she reached out and said, you're walking away from Jesus. Jesus wants you to come back. You're doing the work of the devil. It's like she felt it in the field. She didn't even know that I was doing light language because for those of you listening that might not be religious, like I was not religious, speaking in tongues is light language just within the church, and there's certain rules and parameters around it. Um, and she reached out. Her message was so heartfelt and it was so loving. And it was kind of like that echo from the lifetime of like, are you going to follow the church or are you going to believe in yourself and know that you won't be burned this lifetime? And
Story of
and
your life.
I just replied and I just said, I received this message with so much love and I'm not open to discussing. Cause she had asked, can we hop on a call and like talk? And I just said, I'm not open to this conversation. I'm very happy with the way I'm leading my life and I love you and I'm happy with the way you're leading your life and I honor that and I'm going to move forward in the way I'm moving forward. And that was that. And so it was just this little test from the universe being like, okay, you put your stake in the ground. Are you sure? Let's clear a little bit more of this fear from your body. And then, I got what I started doing with the light language is, and I think this was actually before, it's kind of simultaneously around the same time that I was doing because I was getting it from my guides of yes, please. They basically said if your life was a tree, 75% of the trunk is light language and bringing frequency through your voice. They're like, that's what you incarnated for. So I was like,
Mhm.
F. So that's kind of why I was finally like, fine, I'll put my stake in the ground. Here we go. I have to be able to breathe. I have to live my life. So if this is the only way, then here we go. And so I started first with a trusted colleague and I said, hey, I have light language coming through. Are you familiar with that? Would you mind if I light languaged on you for just like 5 minutes? She's like, sure. She immediately cried. She was like, never stop doing that. And I said, wonderful. Okay, this is a good affirmation. Another colleague, I did the same thing and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I was taken to another lifetime." It was almost like spirit was guiding me through, letting me see all the different things that light language can heal and light language can integrate. So after I had a few colleagues kind of give me the green light of like, "Okay, yeah, this feels good. There's no distortion. It's all coming from the purest source." I I tried it on my longest standing client. And again, she after the session, she was like, "What's your Venmo? I want to send you a tip. That was the best session ever." So I was getting these like care packages of affirmations from spirit. And then I did a ceremony in Joshua Tree where two people in the circle were literally shaking the entire time. Like their body was shaking in order to release the density. And they loved it, but it freaked me out. I was like, "Oh my God, what is this?" I was like, "Is this safe? I just need to round back and double check." And like I double checked and it was all good, but it's like we have, because we want to steward things with integrity, right? We don't want to just
Yes.
be out there and be like, blah, 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 like light
Yeah.
languaging over people, or like, if you can see auras, you don't want to just walk up to someone at a party and be like, "Oh, this is in your aura." Like you want to steward things with integrity, get consent, make sure that the person is open to receiving, and that you're a pure and clean vessel and you're bringing through the highest light and you're consecrating yourself as a holy vessel as such to ensure that that is the case. So had that ceremony, and then we're just rounding back to the conference. I did a Hathorian like vocal activation, and I was just like, "All right." I remember the Hathors, Goddess Hathor and the Hathors came to me and was like, "Just open your mouth and sing." And I was like, "What?" And they're like, "We're going to sing through you." And they had been singing through me a little bit, but again, this was more in my personal. So not only were they like, "You're going to go full blown light language, but you're also going to sing in front of everyone on this conference." I was like, "Are you
Me.
fucking kidding me?" I was like, "What?" But I knew the way spirit works by then. I'm like, whatever, I do this because if I don't, it puts me back 3 months, 6 months on my spiritual path. Like, I'm like, whatever, I will fall and be humbled and be embarrassed. I don't care. So, but I did it, and it was the most well-received session. Everyone loved that session. And it's now a ceremony that I do regularly every time I host my free conferences, because it touches people on such a deep level. It's such a key code for priestesses remembering who they are and remembering their power, and for activating other vocal priestesses in remembering how to use this vessel to command miracles, to weave healing frequency in a space, to integrate soul fragments, to calm the nervous system, to balance the left and right hemispheres of the brain, to get apparitions and connect with, different ascended masters. It's like the technology of light is endless. Everything is light. And what is light? Light is data. What are we? We're organic computers. So the more we can take in light and program ourselves to operate optimally, I mean, that's what's up. That's why we're here. We're here to become our souls in human form, you know? So I'll
Yeah.
pause there.
I love it so much. So for the last few years I've been doing, okay, I'm going to reference this. For those who are unclear about what light language is, it's just using the voice to communicate things that data, light, energy moving through the system that it doesn't have an English word to it. It's not anything scary. The first thing that I asked Danny was like, "Is this evil?" And that's, my conditioning. I grew up very religious, so it was very anything that feels unnorm like weird, I'm always like, "Is it evil?" That's like the first thing that I come to. But really, if you look at children, they really use their voices to move energy through their systems. My sons, they'll just be in front of the mirror being like, "Ooh, ee, ah, moo, And like when they're mad, you can clear their voices are expressing a frequency of mad. And they don't always use English words to express what's happening through their bodies. We call it a tantrum. And not that light language is that. It's, I feel as an adult, it's like a more of a refined and conscious way of I am using my voice to move this dense energy that feels stuck in my right hip. And I just feel so much constriction and it feels like the frequency of anger. And I'm just using the voice to give it space to go. I don't know. What is light language? Like, that's my interpretation, but what is light language for you?
There's so many ways to go. So you might have to re-ask that question to me, because the first thing I want to say, because I'm like, I'm going to go on a tangent. We're going to go
Yeah.
on a fun journey. It's like, women, we're magnetic and we absorb the frequencies around us. And we also have these big tidal waves of emotion in this 3D matrix that's been, deemed to be a bad thing. But when we can direct emotion properly, emotion becomes power. It's just like electricity. When you can conduct electricity through a wire, you can light a light bulb and it's great. If there's nothing for it to run through, you might get shocked and like it can be hurtful, right? So it's like when we can tend to our emotions, because we are magnetic, and that's one of the reasons we have, the bleed each month, is to kind of like let all of that energy go And in cultures that were reverent to this, they knew that women were bleeding on behalf of the collective. We were cleansing on behalf of the collective. So making sound in the way that you're speaking to, it's like our bodies literally know. They know how to make sound in order to make space. We are
Yeah.
literally built for that. Now, when it comes to light language, and I do remember you being like, "Is this evil?" And it's like, well, does it feel evil to you, right? It's like we have to be in our discernment because I think when people come into the spiritual realm and their first awakening, they think if it's spiritual, it must be good, which is
Mhm.
not the case. Think
Yeah.
about when you're finding a therapist or a doctor. Sometimes you need to try out two or three before you find one that actually resonates with you, right? There could be a really miraculous doctor who's like so perfect. And then there could be like the shady, like billboard doctor who's like, I don't know, doing malpractice and stuff, right? They're both doctors.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing with any type of channeling. It's like you really want to make sure you're coming into alignment to receive, whether it's light language, whether it's just channeling or a tarot reading and what have you, with a clear, pristine channel. And that's something that you grow through intuition, through discernment, and what have you. And I'm huge on energetic hygiene, which is a whole different subject that is beyond the scope of this call today. But that being said, what is light language? Light language is language that speaks beyond the mind. So it's very helpful because we're not taught this. We have four different bodies. We have our mental body, our emotional body, our physical body, and our spiritual body. All right. That's what makes up a human. And we tend to the mental body all of the time. Right. And I bless therapy. I think therapy is wonderful. So I encourage that. So this next statement is not a statement against therapy. I had a friend who was in talk therapy for like 5+ years, and we went to dinner and she just cried at the table. And after dinner, and this was when I was first awakening, but I was in my personal development where I knew enough about how to hold space, and I also, just because of who I am, I think I wasn't conscious of like how much I actually do communicate with people's bodies beyond the mental body. And we came out of that dinner and she was like, that single dinner was worth I got through more progress than the past 5 years of the talk therapy. And the reason is because this type of therapy she was doing was talk, and that's just in the mental body. So you can kind of stay and kind of swirl and get stuck in wounding story and suffering. Again, that's not bad. If that's where it starts and it feels good for you, wonderful. Do that, please. And there's many
Yeah.
other types of therapies. I want to
Absolutely.
be very clear. I'm a very big component. Get all the
Yeah.
help you need in whatever way it feels good to you, people. But that all being said, light language, it bypasses the mental body. So the mental body can't attach to it and be like, well, I need the story. How old was I when this wounding occurred? What was this? And sometimes those details can be helpful. And sometimes they can make us stuck. They can make us constricted. They can even grow resentment if we find out, oh, this wounding's from my dad at this age. Now I'm mad at my dad, 30
Keep
years
us in
later.
victim. They can keep us in victim
Yeah.
mode. Yeah.
Yeah, it can keep us in victim mode. So what light language does, and I think I'm just going to give an example. So if you're not wanting to receive light language, then flip off or fast forward 10 seconds from here. And if you're open to it, I'm just going to give an example of light language in 3, 2, 1. So you can see how it sounds like, you're like, is that a language from another country? Like, it sounds like a language, but it's actually not an earthbound language. And a lot of people, when light language opens up, it's the language of the soul. It's more of their soul light coming online. And it's sound that, again, bypasses the mental body so that it speaks directly to the intuitive bodies, to the emotional, physical, spiritual senses that are beyond the mind, to activate, to clear density, to bring more soul light into the body, and many other things. But I will pause there.
It's so good. I just want everyone to experience it. Speaking from the point, I'm going to speak from the vantage point of someone who's still like, what is happening? Why do I need that? I think back to a few years ago. I've always been really great at attending to my emotions. So I remember people scream into a pillow and having that I'm just going to, light language is not screaming into a pillow, but I think it's just that learning to use your voice to just express and move energy. My capacity to scream into a pillow lasted for like seconds before I would start to be like, this is very uncomfortable for me. I feel kind of crazy. I feel like a lunatic in my room. Like just feel I'm very unstable. You know what I mean? To now, fast forward to however many years later, it just is such a natural part of, like, my hygiene as a human, like a spirit having a human experience. I can't not use sound. And I think what you're saying, for anyone who is doing talk therapy, I love that. I started out with that when I was 19. I think that there's just different levels of entry for the soul. And I love that you get to a certain point where it's just like, I can no longer recall childhood memories. Like, I have done the work. And it's like light language just kind of feels like it's this like robust, godly, heavenly, life-filled system that just is like, you don't have to know anymore. We don't have to use our human brains to heal, because now we can actually access the light of God, and we can just become one with the light of God and use that to transmute and alchemize all pain and suffering within our human bodies. And
Amen,
what
sister.
light language has been for me is, and I'm gonna have one of my mentors on, and she is the most amazing human ever, and I've been doing subconscious work with her for the last 3 years, where we're rewiring, and it's changed my life, like, literally changed my life. But the way that light language has just, like, it literally feels like it's taken me from, like, being in a Nintendo game and just kind of, like, really working hard. It just felt like I was, like, stuck on, like, level 8, just working hard. And light language feels it's, like, accelerated my divinity. Like, it's just opened up pathways within my whole system I didn't even know that I had access to, but always longed to have access to. I longed to be more expressive. When I would see someone who's like, I scream into a pillow, I'm like, my whole soul would be like, I want to do that so bad, but I can't, because I need to maintain my composure. You know what I mean? Like, I need to have control over what is happening inside of me, and light language just softens me and, like, brings in just this frequency of the divine mother that heals beyond my comprehension. And I am so grateful for that, because it's lightened the mental load of this, like, I'm having to heal, I have to heal, you know? That's been my experience with light language. And with you, when we first got on, I was like, "Is it evil? I'm scared." And but I just would witness that of like, okay, like, there's this part of me that feels really scared, but the rest of me is like, I know that I was brought here for a reason, and if I'm here, I'm gonna just like go, like, spirit led me here. God led me here. And if I trust that, and so I just have to let it go. I have to let it fly. And really, my experience in working in our one-on-one container with the voice, it felt like every healing thing that I had done with, like, with my subconscious work, with yoga, you name a healing thing that I like have done it. Like, I have gone there. It felt like it was just compiled all in my system, and light language just felt like it just cleared cleared out and gave space for new light, new codes of consciousness to be instilled inside of me. This remembrance, truly, like, it's been crazy. And that's what I want for every woman. Just recently in my master class that I just recently hosted, like, we did the whole, it was like trying to help women understand, like, the capacity to sound and express yourself is so liberating. Like, you don't even know how much of a prison you're living in until you experience just using your voice to get that shit out. Like, it's like, it's not, none of us have to be vocalists here. You know what I mean? Like, I was kicked out of treble trios in 7th grade. You know what I mean? Like, I was kicked out of choir, you guys. And so, like, it's not about that. Like, it's not about that. To me, it's like we are reclaiming my capacity to be to be self-healing, to be one with the divine. And my voice is just simply the reflection of the divinity coursing through my veins.
Amen. I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head. There's so many women, especially right now, because we're all like, the voice is returning. Like, the voice of God is returning through all of us. And there's so many women who are like, I feel my soul voice stuck in my throat. And they're like, I don't even know what my soul voice is, but I know my soul needs to sing a song. I don't know what the song is, but it's stuck in my throat. And the thing is, what's stuck in your throat is your divinity, your divine knowing, your spiritual authority. And so when you can open that up through sound, again, bringing that light through, it's like English words. God bless language because we need to communicate, right? But English words is like dial up internet for those of you that are old enough to remember dial up internet,
Like
right?
wading
Because
through freaking mud, yeah.
it is. That's what English is. And then light language is like the best broadband dial up, whatever, Starlink, whatever the greatest internet connection, fastest, most powerful one is there today. Like it's like a supercomputer, right? It's just, the thing is with light language too, is it has its own intelligence because it is source frequency. So that means that when, let's say, I have 5 people in front of me and I'm doing a group light language session, you might be having Mother Mary come to you and anoint you and open different chambers in your heart and do different healings on you. The person next to you might be having like Saint Germain come and do like work on their spinal fluid and opening up their spine. And the next person might be having flashes of a past life because they're actually having a fragment of their soul come back into their wholeness that they already are, but are remembering and claiming and reinstating as holy ground. And so when we have those soul fragments come in, the reason that light language would bring that in is because it means that we have more of our power. We're more whole. And so that's what I mean by it's an intelligence of itself. It's like a computer microchip that gets to land in the field of the receiver. And then that receiver's soul, higher self, divinity will then use that data in the way that's perfect for that person. The mind doesn't even have to get involved. So you can
Mhm.
have 5 people in one session, each having a different experience because it's their divinity directing the show. And I'm simply acting as an amplifier of source frequency for their own divinity to use.
It's so good. It's so good, and that has been now, like, between my husband and I, because it's interesting too, as I've channeled that and become that, he's just being around me is just Bluetooth to him. His capacity to just, like, he'll be rolling out in the closet, like, like, doing a somatic release, where now it's just very normal for us to be hearing each other like, "Bleh, ooh, ah," like, and he'll be like, "Wow, like, I can hear you releasing some big stuff in there." I just think that it gives it just really acts as, like, a carry out vessel, and it's so powerful, and if you just are uncomfortable with hearing it, I remember a few years ago when my mentor would just be like, "Let's just like this," like, that was uncomfortable, and I notice as I teach yoga classes, I'm like, "Okay, let's exhale, and I wanna hear you exhale." It's very hard for women in my yoga classes to take up space with their exhales. I'm like, "Let your whole body relax and let the voice literally break the chains that are binding you and remove it with the voice." And it's like a new concept for them because 'cause they're just like, like I'll be like, "Okay, let's inhale," and then exhale, I'll be like, "Ah," the first one is always like super tight. It's very tight, it's very breathy, and then I just I'm like, "Hey, we're gonna go again, like, let's take up space on your mat," and it's just like, eventually I can get every woman to be like, I have to be loud, when I'm doing it so that it gives other permission, like, "Oh," like, really feel it, and it really correlates to so I gave birth like, natural births to my 2 boys, and so I can't speak from I've never been medicated while birthing, so I can't speak from that aspect, I don't know what that feels like, but when I'm birthing and when your baby is trying to make its way through the birth canals, the doula is cueing me because my breath can get very tight, and it gets to be a lot of pressure that you're holding in the body. And so the breath can get very like like up here and tight, and that actually constricts the pelvic floor from opening up. And she's like, "You have to use your breath." And it's so interesting because at my first doula with Kingston, she was like, become the dragon. And there's just so many things in my life now where like Ethan was like, remember your dragon breaths? Because that was the only way that I could move the energy down and out through the room. Where it was like, okay, I'm not breathing. I'm so tight. This is a lot. To like, no, I am the master of my body. I chose to have this baby and I will move the energy through so that he can come out. And the energy had to be directed with the voice. Like, anyone who's birthed a baby will know that that is the case. You have to, like, use these primal you become primal, and you have like, it's like, "Whoa," you know? I just think, like, that was an intricate piece to helping me move from, like, 9 to pushing my babies out, is using my voice. And I remember feeling self-conscious about it because I had seen videos of women giving birth who were, like, silent, and it was, like, super clean and pristine, and it just seems so like, "Oh, and the baby's out, and my births were not like that. They were primal, and I think it was like that for a reason because Spirit was trying I'm making the connection now, like, Spirit was trying to teach me something. Because I was not a queen little like, a little quiet, clean, quaint birther, like, I was, like, primal, using my voice, and that it wasn't until I could use my voice that my children really made the exit. So
Mm. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, right? It's like we are literally built, women specifically, we are built as masters of energy. We really, really can. And through our sound, through our voice, for remembering our primordial nature, for owning that, for taking up space, like you're literally birthing life, like you are a vessel of God. But I love how you are teaching your students, like, take up space, because that is one of the biggest fears with the voice. It's like taking up space, hearing yourself, allowing yourselves to remember that you actually do have wisdom. You do have something to share. The authority is not outside of you always. Of course, we need outside things like therapy, light language, voice lessons, yoga, whatever, that remind us and help us remember. But what's so wonderful about using the voice and using sound in the day to day is it signals to your physiology that the sound is coming from within you and exiting your body rather than coming out from around you and entering in, like from TV, a book, a teacher, what have you. Because if we're constantly only sourcing from outside of ourselves, then we start to think we actually don't have anything to give this world. But when we simply sound, even if it's just blah, for like a minute each morning, like you said, that is telling your cells sound is light and data, that it's literally signaling to your physiology, I know things.
yeah.
It's not even like you have to be beautifully singing or saying, it's just blah, 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 blah. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I remember. I am my own authority. Okay, even if that person says that, what does it actually mean to me? Like I can appreciate other people have viewpoints, but I don't need to take anything on that actually doesn't feel true for me and my path, and I can honor other people's path as it being true for them, and it doesn't have to match. And just all of these beautiful things come from sounding and singing and using the voice, because we're literally, there's my ding, and I do
Yeah.
have to hop here in a moment, because we're literally meant to. And when we allow that light to flow through us through the medium of sound, we're literally encoding ourselves with more of our divine nature. That's just what's up. And we begin to actually move in the world a different way.
It's you guys, I can't emphasize it enough. It is so powerful, and I think it is so powerful exactly what you said because it is your own frequency, your own essence. No one can voice for you. No one can be your voice. You know what like, that's exactly what you said, like, I could go to yoga, but someone's teaching me the class, like, I might be having my own experience, but that flow was made up by another person, and the playlist was made for another person, like, when you use your voice, it is literally you and God, there is no other person that can make this up for you, and so it really brings through this, I am sovereign, I am safe, I am free to be me and fully expressed, and it's one of the first things that you had me do while reclaiming the voice, which is I think is a great starting point for anyone who just feels uncomfortable with they're like, "What? I would never use I would never do that." Like I would just hum. It would just be like, like humming, and I would feel the vibration through my spine, through my heart, and then I would take my hands and literally imagine using encoding my voice around me. And I had realized that as I did that, that I'm like, wow, so many other voices, teachings, people, things have made up my energetic composition. And it felt like I was really reclaiming my energetic composition as a spirit having a human experience. Like my human body had been composed of so many other peoples and so many other frequencies of I'm trying so hard to be, I want to be. And then the voice just felt like it was like, I am Katelyn and I am here and I am having a human experience and I am sovereign and I am free and I can use my voice to heal, transmute, to liberate. So that would be a really great starting point for anyone who's like, what just hum, just humming, like you could hum in the car and just really feel the power of your own voice humming and really call in yourself. My name is Dani. My name is Katelyn. I am humming. I call in my own soul frequency. That would be the starting place.
Oh,
I would say
baby.
someone who was like, oh, like I don't know about all this, because I've noticed with women when I'm like taking them through somatic practices of like, what is that, what does that feel like? Let's give it sound. Kind of still another skill set. It seems like there's still a little bit of hesitancy around that of like, oh, I don't even really want to go to that emotion. I don't want to feel that feeling. And I definitely don't want to give it a sound. But when we're just humming, you start getting comfortable with your own voice humming in your own body and feeling what it feels like to have your voice humming through your God-given body. That's what I would say.
Amen. I'm just like, preach, preach. Who is this woman who came on and was like, what's a vocal priestess? Why am I here? To now, but this is the power of the voice.
Yeah.
Literally watching how you've transformed. It's like you don't second guess yourself anymore. You might say, like, oh, I have these other parts and I'm taking stock of them and I'm going to like use my discernment. But you're not like, you're not in fear. You might have fear pass through you like we all do when we're doing new things, but you don't let it direct your action. And I just feel you so much in your throne and in your emanation now. And it's through this work of allowing your body elemental to become the light of Christ. And I'm going to use the word Christ.
I
I
love it.
probably should give
Bringing it
that a disclaimer,
especially for
but
my community, a bunch of religious
yeah.
girls, like, trying to figure out what's going on.
Did a bunch of people just turn off the podcast? Just know you don't have to use my verbiage. But I had, oh, and it's 222 on my end, and that's a Magdalene number, so that's beautiful. So I'll leave with this. When I say the Christ, I'm not talking about Jesus Christ, although he was a Christ. I look at Christ as a title, Christ as an emanation, Christ as a frequency of the crystalline human, the human that has their divine DNA fully turned up, turned on, embodied, and expressed in the
Mhm.
way they behave, in the way they speak, in the way they are in the world. So Jesus Christ was a Christ, but Buddha was also a Christ. Mary Magdalene was also a Christ. You might have to go outside your religious text to
Christ
find more on that
Christ
one.
is the title of someone who's yeah, Christ is simply a title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's simply a title of that represents a level of mastery and embodiment of someone who has transcended this world of form. So, be in this world, but not of it. But they've transcended it, but they're not escaping. They're still, walking in this world of form, helping everything remember its own divinity so that we can actually create heaven on earth, not as some airy fairy BS, vision in the sky,
Yeah.
but as, wow, we're actually creating lives in more and more people that are fulfilling, where people feel purposeful, where they feel valued, where they feel expressed. And when we feel all of those things, it's 1000% easier to honor other people. You simply act differently. There's so much harm that would go away in the world. So, with that, I do have to hop. So, the last
Yeah.
thing I will say is just if you're listening to this podcast and this has spoken to you in any way, you are so brave because this path is one of the heart and not one of the mind. And it's not that the mind is bad, but it's that that's the only kind of terrain we've been taught to, I want to use the word boogie, to boogie with. And now we're learning in order to bring the 5D here to earth, we're learning to operate from the heart space, which can be very foreign because it's more like nudges and intuition without a map. So it's a knowing without an explanation, right? Which can be very disorienting. So I just want to honor everyone who's tuning in and just say, you are brave, you are worthy, and you've got this, and just keep going. Keep going. And I want to honor you, Katelyn. You're amazing. I absolutely adore and love you. I'm so glad that you've come into my life. What a blessing you are to this world.
I feel the same about you. I feel just, I'm like, my soul sister, we have come together again in another life, and it feels so good. And then what you said is so true. And truly, the purpose of my podcast is women who are breaking the chains of this 3D world and walking in their own lives as a human being a new like, being their divine selves, and you emanate that so beautifully, which is why I work with you and why I wanted to have you on. And for all of our listeners, Dani also creates a lot of songs, and she's just having well, by the time this comes out, your song will have been released. So look her up
Yay.
on Spotify. She has amazing tracks that will bless your life. And then so you can also find her on DaniFrederick.com or in your Instagram. I'm like telling you, I'm like, everyone
DaniFrederick.co. Yeah.
follow Dani. We need to listen to her music. We need to follow her on Instagram, and we need to support all the other sisters who are really walking this new path of I walk from the heart, not the mind. And you put that so beautifully. So thank you so much for coming on today. I feel like we barely even scratched the surface of the power of
I
the
know we
voice.
could have gone for 2 hours, 2 more hours. I'm like, oh, I don't want it to be over.
I know, but I know that the women will be blessed, and you have everything that you need inside. Every woman has everything she needs to be the woman of her dreams. So, and the voice is such a powerful way to activate that inside of yourself. So, thank you, Dani, for helping me remember my voice. I love you with all my heart.
Love you. Thank you, sister, and blessings to all.
Thank you for joining me today. If this episode spoke to your heart, please share it with another woman on her journey. And until next time, stay rooted in your humanity and devoted to your becoming.